You see, the United States isn't in control of this. We think we are. We think we're providing the weapons. I'm pretty sure that this green light that we're giving them comes with heavy caveats on where they can and can't strike. But we've just seen the United States, repeatedly push through. It's its own red lines. Remember, Joe Biden once said that doing this could lead to World War II. Well, you're doing it, Joe, you're doing it. So yeah, I agree with them. This could lead to World War III. This is one of the most dangerous things that has happened in modern history. This is a total disregard on the part of the United States for the lives of humanity. To do what, again, I just have to ask. To do what? Score propaganda points? Give a failing Ukrainian leader one last go-around at legitimacy? What are they trying to accomplish from this? Because it's not going to defeat Russia on September 8th. 2024 will be remembered as a pivotal moment in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. Scott Ritter has pointed out in recent analysis that Russian forces are systematically dismantling Ukraine's defensive positions, creating an ever-tightening stranglehold on Ukrainian troops in Donbass. With the collapse of key defensive lines, the tide of battle is unmistakably shifting in favor of Russia. Today, we delve into the details of these developments, focusing on the battles surrounding Novar Rivka and Kursk. These developments are not isolated skirmishes, but rather critical chess moves in a war of attrition, where every small gain or loss reverberates across the entire Eastern Front. For months, Russian forces have been slowly but steadily advancing, breaking through Ukrainian lines that were once considered impenetrable. Today, we explore these shifting battlefronts in detail, offering a thorough analysis of the situation and what it means for both sides of the conflict. The Russian flag now flies over Novar Rivka, a town that represents far more than a tactical gain. As Inspector Scott Ritter noted in his assessment, Russian forces are focused on strategic areas, and the capture of Novar Rivka is a significant indicator of their growing control in eastern Ukraine. On September 8th, Russian forces successfully breached Ukraine's second line of defense, capturing key settlements like Kovmem and Noka. The fall of Novka is a catastrophic loss for Ukraine as it further weakens their already overstretched forces. But why is Novar Rivka so important? Strategically located just 12 kilometers from Pokos, this town serves as a crucial transit point for logistics and troop movements. Russian control over Novar Rivka means that Ukrainian reinforcements and supplies can no longer flow as freely to the front lines. The impact of this loss will ripple across the battlefield, complicating Ukraine's efforts to hold other key positions. With the fall of these towns, Russian forces now turn their attention to the next line of Ukrainian defense. Near Sido, where the battle is expected to intensify, the noose is tightening around Ukrainian forces stationed nearby. Russian troops are executing a classic pincer movement surrounding Ukrainian soldiers from multiple sides. With key supply lines severed and reinforcements unable to break through, the situation for Ukraine's forces is becoming more desperate by the hour. According to Russian sources, such as the state news agency TASS, Russian forces are closing in, leaving the encircled Ukrainian troops with little room to maneuver or retreat. This tactic of encirclement is nothing new, but it has proven devastating in modern warfare, particularly when air and artillery support are heavily involved. For the soldiers trapped near Sido, the choices are bleak: surrender, attempt a risky breakout, or fight to the bitter end. If Russia succeeds in fully encircling these forces, it will be a significant psychological and military blow to Ukraine's overall defensive strategy. With reports of low morale, dwindling supplies, and the constant bombardment of artillery and drone strikes, the Ukrainian forces here are facing an uphill battle. The question remains, how long can they hold out under such pressure? The loss of Selidov would open the door to even deeper Russian penetration into Ukrainian-held territory, setting the stage for a larger assault on Puz. Puz is not just another town in eastern Ukraine, it is a lifeline for Ukrainian forces, serving as a major logistics hub and defensive stronghold. However, the defenses here are not as formidable as they are in other locations such as Abdika. Unlike Abdika's concrete fortifications, the defenses around Puz are made up mostly of trenches and lightly fortified positions. Ukrainian forces here are stretched thin, with fewer troops available to hold off Russian advances. In recent months, Russian forces have been steadily advancing toward Puz, but the pace of their offensive has quickened in recent weeks. The cracks in Ukraine's defenses are becoming increasingly apparent. With limited reinforcements and a dwindling supply of artillery and ammunition, the Ukrainian soldiers stationed here face a daunting task. Reports suggest that Russia is now just days away from launching a full-scale assault on the city, a move that could see a turning point in the battle for Donbas. The pressure on Puz is building, and if Russian forces succeed in breaching the city's defenses, it will have far-reaching consequences for Ukraine's position in the Donbas. As the Russian onslaught continues, the toll on Ukrainian forces is becoming increasingly evident. According to a recent report from CNN, Ukrainian soldiers are facing severe burnout, with many showing signs of mental and physical exhaustion. As Inspector Scott Ritter mentioned in one of his analyses, the low morale among Ukrainian troops, combined with limited reinforcements, creates a fragile situation on the battlefield. Some Ukrainian units have been left to fend for themselves, isolated from the broader military structure. One of the most concerning trends is the growing number of desertions. Nearly 19,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been prosecuted for deserting their posts or abandoning the battlefield in just the first 4 months of 2024. While this number is staggering, it likely does not capture the full extent of the problem. Many commanders choose not to report desertions, hoping to convince their soldiers to return voluntarily. This growing issue of desertion speaks volumes about the broader challenges facing Ukraine's military. With low morale, dwindling supplies, and an ever-present fear of Russian artillery, the front lines are becoming increasingly unstable. The question remains, how long can Ukraine continue to hold its defensive positions under such immense pressure? As Ukrainian morale continues to erode, Russian forces are taking full advantage of the situation, pressing harder with each passing hour. While Ukrainian forces face mounting challenges in the east, a new front has opened in the north. In a surprising move, Ukrainian combat engineers have been redeployed to the KK region deep within Russian territory. However, this offensive has raised serious questions about Ukraine's broader strategic objectives. Many Ukrainian soldiers are openly skeptical about the decision to fight on Russian soil, particularly as the situation on the Eastern Front remains so precarious. For many of these soldiers, the deployment to Kurur feels like a distraction from the more pressing battles in Donbas. Some question the rationale behind launching an offensive into Russian territory, while key defensive positions in Ukraine are under threat. Despite initial successes in KK, including the capture of Russian soldiers and the seizure of valuable territory, the long-term strategic benefits remain unclear. In interviews with CNN, Ukrainian soldiers expressed exhaustion and frustration with the constant redeployments. Having fought for over 2.5 years, many feel that the situation has become a never-ending cycle of combat with no clear end in sight. The toll of this war is evident in their faces and their words as they question the wisdom of continuing to fight on two fronts. Ukraine's focus on Kurur may have unintended consequences as Russian forces continue to make significant gains in Donbas. From the Russian perspective, Ukraine's strategy of opening multiple fronts has played directly into their hands. President Vladimir Putin has been vocal in his criticism of Ukraine's attempts to halt Russian advances in Donbas, arguing that Kiev's focus on Kursk has allowed Russian forces to accelerate their push in the east. Speaking in a televised address, Putin stated that Ukraine's failure to defend key positions in Donbas has only hastened Russia's progress toward its long-term objectives. Russia's military gains are not just about territory, they are about momentum. By capturing key towns like Novar Rivka and pressing toward Pokos, Russia is steadily eroding Ukraine's ability to sustain its defense in the east. As the conflict drags on, the disparity between the two sides becomes increasingly clear. Russia's superior artillery, combined with a more focused strategic approach, is putting enormous pressure on Ukrainian forces. With Pokos now within reach, Russia's long-held goal of controlling the entire Donbas region appears closer than ever. Pokos is more than just a city, it is a critical link in Ukraine's defense of the entire Donbas region. Losing Pokos would not only cut off Ukraine's access to vital supply lines, but also open the door for Russia to make further advances in Donbas. Ukrainian military experts, such as Mokov, have warned that if Pokos falls, it could lead to the collapse of the entire Eastern Front. For Russia, capturing Pokos is a top priority. It would provide a logistical hub for further operations in the region, allowing Russian forces to consolidate their gains and push deeper into Ukrainian territory. The battle for Pokos will be decisive, not just for the fate of Donbas, but for the broader trajectory of the war. The fall of Pokos would mark a major turning point in the war, giving Russia a significant foothold in the Donbas region. The battles for Novar Rivka, Pokos, and Kursk are shaping the future of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. As Inspector Scott Ritter recently noted, the pattern of Russian advances and Ukrainian defensive collapses reveals a larger strategic picture. Russian forces continue to make significant gains in Donbas, while the pressure on Ukrainian forces is mounting. With low morale, dwindling resources, and an overstretched military, Ukraine is facing one of its greatest challenges since the start of the war. For Russia, the path to victory lies through Pokos. If Russian forces succeed in capturing the city, it will be a major blow to Ukraine's defense of the east, and a significant step toward achieving their long-term strategic objectives. As the conflict continues to evolve, one thing is clear: the battle for Donbas is far from over. Stay tuned as we continue to follow these developments and bring you the latest updates from the front lines in eastern Ukraine.